Welcome to the Flower Files, where we plant stories and grow conversations. I'm your host, Liza Getz, flower farmer, florist, educator, and founder of Wildly Native Flower Farm and the Flower Files podcast. Each week on the Flower Files, we dive into the world of flower farming, gardening, floral design, local flowers, small business, and the people who make this industry so incredibly special. So whether you're a flower farmer, a gardener, a florist, a flower enthusiast, or someone dreaming about turning a passion into a business, you're in the right place. Before we jump into today's episode, I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying the Flower Files and you're listening on YouTube, please take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a fellow flower lover. Those simple actions help more gardeners, growers, florists, and flower enthusiasts discover the show. You guys already know what to do. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to follow the podcast and leave a review. It truly helps us continue bringing your conversations, ideas, and things that educate, inspire, and connect our flower-loving community. Now grab your coffee, step into the garden, and let's get growing. Hi friends, Liza here from the Flower Files. As you already know, I am doing today a little bit different. You can see my hair is not down for one. You can see I'm pretty light on the makeup, and I want to talk to you just a little bit differently than I normally do. I try really hard to always speak from the heart and to be honest and to be 100% transparent. And I've gotten some questions and I just want to clarify a few things. First and foremost, I'm a flower farmer. At my heart of hearts, deep in my soul, I am a grower. Put me outside in the field, let me plant things, let me plant seeds, let me help things grow. And sometimes that includes helping people grow, actually. Many of you already are familiar with my story, and you know that I spent over 14 years in the education world and stepped out of it to become a full-time flower farmer. Whoop, whoop. But I've always been that nerd. I've never been the cool girl. I've always been the person who kind of was okay in the dirt where the other girls, my mom always used to kid that she had a harder time with my laundry than she ever anticipated. She said, why can't I ever just clean lipstick out of your clothes? It's always hydraulic fluid or dirt. And kudos to her for letting me be that person. That being said, I consistently have people come to me and ask me questions, or they'll text me, or they'll email me, and they'll be like, hey, I'm seeing this in my garden, or hey, I'm seeing this in my business. Can you help me with this? Or what do I do about this? Or how do I identify this pest? Because by now you all know I love bugs. And I have a fair amount of knowledge from all of the really cool experiences that I've had over time, from yes, teaching in the classroom, but also writing national curriculum, writing local curriculum, writing state curriculum. Like all of those pieces really have lined me up to be in a place where teaching is also part of who I am. So when I was in the classroom, I taught biotechnology, I taught animal science, I taught biology, I taught like environmental studies and AP environmental and all of this cool, heavy science stuff. But at the core of it, I've always been the girl who just wants to be outside, who just loves to be outside, who needs that time in the dirt. And call it grounding, you can call it anything you need. Some people call it witchcraft, some people call it grounding. There's lists of things, but at the core of it, I just need to be outside. I cannot be stuck in a box. Do not make me be in an office because I start to get antsy. And I know there's other people out there who feel the same way. I know there's a lot of people who feel that same way of, I just need to get outside. I just need my hands in the dirt, or I just need to take a walk. So with more and more people asking me questions and more moments where I'm finding myself in that place that I am excited to help others on their journey as they're making changes in their life, it was a very natural fit for me to step back into the education space a little bit, but a little bit differently this time. Because I started getting very similar questions, I started getting very similar requests from people and very similar styles of topics. The topics seemed to be the same. I figured it was time for me to help people and help people do things a little differently than others. When I first started out my journey on flower farming, it was rough. I'm going to be 100% transparent. Yet again, I wasn't the cool girl because it's not cool sometimes to be the only one who's doing something a little different. It makes it a little uncomfortable sometimes, because when I went to buy my tractor, people looked at me and they went, "You're gonna what? You're gonna grow flowers? Doesn't that happen in South America?" No. Yes, it does. It does happen in South America. And I love to travel and I love to see things, and all of those things are amazing. But it can happen here. It can happen locally. And again, I go back to education. I go back to that piece of teaching people you can grow flowers here. Okay, I'm not going to grow long stem roses and baby's breath like you would normally see from a florist, because that's A, not my style. B, roses have thorns, and thorns are miserable things and they poke, and we do have roses on the farm, but they are not my favorite crop. But again, it takes education for people to understand what it is we do and how it works. So yes, I did need a tractor, and I did buy a tractor because I did create a business centered around ag that was just different from the traditional soy, corn, and wheat. And as soon as you're a girl doing something on a tractor, everybody kind of, what are you doing? And at first, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a hobby. And there was information that was available. Of course, Floret was, a huge part of the journey at that time. I wish, looking back at it, I had had a better understanding of the scale. And that's what has really led me to really want to dig in and help people, because I feel like I spent so many years struggling, stuck, and not clear on how I should be doing things. I was under the impression, well, if I want to make more money, I need to grow more flowers. And there is nothing further from the truth. And then it becomes this machine of, I got to grow, sell, so people buy, so I can have profit. And I was looking at recipes and I was looking at all of this information. I was like, well, this bouquet didn't come together exactly the way I wanted it to from a profit margin, because maybe I didn't grow this. And I'll grow that next year and I'll tuck it in. And then I grew it and I was like, well, shit, that doesn't grow really great in her area. Cut it from the list. And actually, it usually takes 2 rotations for us to make the decision to actually cut it from the list. Because what if it was the weather? What if it was too much rain, not enough rain? What if? And the what ifs definitely carried me through keeping varieties that I should have cut a lot sooner, or maybe trialing smaller sizes. I was so proud that first growing season. I had bought the tractor, I had done the stuff, I was going to do all of these things, I had some of the tools, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And that's where I want to help people, because I sat down with the Johnny's catalog. At that point, it was Burpees or Johnny's in my house. Park Seed came a little bit, but I hadn't unlocked that gate yet of GeoSeed. So it was Johnny's that I first sat with. And, I had looked at things that I knew that I could grow well, and understood, okay, I can grow these things really well, so I'm going to grow some of these. But they say, and they, who is the they? The they is the Instagram. The they is the other professionals, the other, smart people, the other flower people. they say you should grow these things and this is what you should do. And so I grew in that style, and I sat down that first year and tried to calculate out what my bundles would look like, because I figured I could do bundles, I could do vases, I could do something with flowers, and I could figure it out. But I didn't do the due diligence in the back part of the business. I just was so excited to start growing things and be like, I'm going to grow and I'm going to be a flower farmer and it's going to be amazing, because it's the chicken and the egg formula theory, however you want to look at that. Which comes first, the sales or the product? Well, you have to have product in order to have sales. So it's a balance, and you're trying to figure it out, and you're struggling and you're frustrated, and my God, you're tired, but you're excited. And it's all of these emotions, and you have this like, I'm really excited, I'm doing it. And then you hit this spot where you're like, oh my God, I'm doing it. And I'm so freaking tired and I'm so exhausted. And why am I doing this? And then you have like these little moments and these little wins that you're like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And you see all of these things on social media. And I think social media is the biggest lie across the board. It's this shiny penny life of, hey, this is all peaches and rosebuds. But in the background, nobody told me that I would be washing buckets for hundreds of hours a year, because you have to. Because what else are you going to pick your flowers into? And although it's good to do things different from other people, there are some things that are done consistently for a reason. And that's important to understand and really wrap your head around it as well. So I feel like there's layers to all of this. And I'm sure someone listening to this with a business degree is going to be able to throw comments on there that's like, well, you should have this, and this. Listen, I didn't have a business degree. I had passion and I had an ability, and I knew it's what I wanted to do. And God bless the luck that we have had for things to land in the way that they have. I am so grateful for the people who have helped me throughout the entire process. And there's a long list of them, because they are my tribe. I don't know what I would do without them. This episode of the Flower Files is made possible by our sponsors. Bob Bell Chevrolet, helping Maryland drivers stay safe on the road with dependable vehicles and exceptional customer service. Ivingo Creative, providing branding, website design, and marketing solutions that help small businesses tell their story and grow with confidence. And the Tax Chick Pro, helping entrepreneurs, farmers, and small business owners navigate taxes, bookkeeping, and financial planning with less stress and more clarity. We are grateful for their support of the Flower Files and our growing community of flower lovers, gardeners, farmers, and small business owners. But back to my first year sitting, it was cold, it was January, Johnny's had come, and Johnny's is like, after the hubbub of the holidays, those catalogs start to trickle in, and you get to dream, you get to look, you get to think, you get to wonder when those catalogs come in. I went, I'm going to grow some of this, and this is a new variety, and I want to add this, and I want to do this, and I want these textures. And it's a little hope of spring in that middle of January, where I personally struggle. I hate the cold. And it's not realistic for me to fly to Costa Rica, Belize, and I don't know, someplace else that's warm every other week to not deal with the cold, because it snows here and I have to do things like tap the snow off the hoop houses. So I sat and I picked, and I was so proud of that seed order. It was the largest seed order I had ever placed in my life. It was ginormous compared to a regular backyard order that I had placed. And I'd done all these calculations, and I had pages and pages of notes, and I was going to grow this many of this and this many of this and do all of these things. And I had played some previous years. I had grown in small patches. I had experimented with different types of plastic and newspaper and black fabric and black paper. It was almost like craft paper, the big rolls that the art teachers had in school. It was kind of like that, but it was black, and we tried planning in that, and that was a mess too, because things would step on it, and then it would rip, and it it would rain and it would become mush. But if I didn't experiment, I wouldn't have known. So I got all of the seeds, and the order came, and I organized them by the different seasons, and I put some in the fridge, and I tucked some in the box for, summer. And I was so proud. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this. Like I've drawn a line in the sand. I've stepped over it, and I've stuck my flag, however you want to picture it. And I grew that first year. I grew all of the things that I thought I needed. I did all of the things I thought I was supposed to do. I had calculated out the numbers, tried to account for some crop loss because there's things that don't germinate. There's stuff that dies. Days get hot and you're busy and you think that the watering is enough, and then it's not humid and things get wilty and life happens. Especially if you're still in a 9-to-5 job, that happens more than you anticipate initially. And I distinctly remember that first season standing in the middle of that field, what I called a field at that point. It wasn't even a quarter or an eighth of an acre. It was a patch. It was it was a backyard basically. And I stood there, and I had this moment where, and I want to say I was disappointed, because I wasn't disappointed. It was a moment of clarity of I didn't understand and anticipate the scale that I would need, because I had read all of the things. Make sure you have enough greens. That's the one thing that everybody overlooks, and they need greens and filler. So I had done a really good job of taking the information that I had and putting it together. I just didn't understand the scale that I was going to need for it to be, because you have 3 different types of flowers. You have something like a single stem sunflower. I'm not talking branching. I'm talking about that traditional one stem, one sunflower. You cut it, it's gone. So I counted for those correctly. And then you have your cut and come again, like your zinnia and your cosmos. You cut and it sends up side shoots, and now instead of 1, you have 2. Instead of 2, you have 4, and they just keep coming, and it's amazing. And then you have your one-hit wonders, where I feel like snapdragons kind of fall into that, where you have one stem that comes up and it's beautiful, and then you have side shoots that come up, but that's kind of it. You don't get multiple cuts from it. And I had accounted for a lot of that, but what I didn't account for was the volume that I would need, because I stood in the middle of that patch and went, oh my God. I was like, great, I've grown all these flowers and this is wonderful, but I don't have enough. And why didn't I have enough? Because I hadn't done the bouquet backwards math and adjusting. And I didn't know how to do it. I didn't understand the pieces to put into it. And from a business perspective, my dad is a business professor. He gave me all of the tools and all the information that I needed. But sometimes reality and the tools that you have don't match. And that's what happened. It just didn't match. And you've got growing seasons, and this is supposed to bloom here, and this is supposed to bloom here, but this now bloomed here, and this bloomed here. And now I don't have the stuff that I thought I was going to have, and I grew this new variety. First thing that stands out in my mind of that second year was phlox for us. And I don't mean garden phlox. There's this really pretty type of phlox. I'll put the variety in the show notes. It's beautiful. It's like this soft peachy pink that everybody's like, oh, it's beautiful. I don't know. My culture, my soil, my everything, it does not grow more than this tall for me. Great in bud vases. I can't put that in a bouquet. It's not long enough. The stems aren't going to hit the water. That's going to die in 10 minutes. Like on a 90-degree day, on the transport and all of that kind of stuff. So there's so many layers to understanding what goes into whatever you choose to do. If you choose to have a roadside stand, if you choose to have a small little bouquet business, if you choose to have a farmer's market once a weekend, if you choose to have more of a traditional flower shop, or you have an Instagram with a pop-up, or if you're going to go larger scale and you're going to try to supply your florists, you need to talk to your florists also and find out what they want, because you can grow all of the amazing specialty tulips, for example, but that florist can get a tulip from online shipped in because maybe they don't have the same environmental values that you do or perspectives, or maybe they're just trying to make rent, before we throw judgment out there, for 80 cents. But if you're buying your bulb for 80 cents, you're not going to be able to have, now I'm not talking same varieties, because the varieties that you can get from a wholesaler and the varieties that I can grow are two totally different things. Totally different. And you as the consumer probably aren't going to want to pay for what that florist would have to charge. And it took me a long time to understand that I need to be charging appropriately. I can't stand there and look at the bunch of flowers that I'm holding in my hand and say, well, I can't sell that at market. That's not worth $20. I need to figure out what the price points are. I need to, do I have a 10, a 20, a 40? Do I have a 20, 40, 50? Do I have a 20, 40, 100? What is my market going to have, and how am I going to market it? And how am I going to communicate it? Back to the chicken and the egg. If I don't have the flowers, I can't make the sales. And if I don't have the flowers to make the bouquets, I can't make the sales. So how do I come up with a recipe? So that's when I started to look for all of these recipes that were online. And 9 times out of 10, things just didn't align the same way for them that they did for me. It was frustrating. And that's one of the biggest reasons why in the courses that we're getting ready to launch, which sometimes I'm so nervous about it, I just want to throw up. But other times I'm so nervous about it because I'm excited, I'm going to throw up. So basically I just want to throw up because I'm so excited and nervous about it. But I want to be able to be a resource where I can help people understand this is how you grow flowers. This is how you make money growing flowers. And this is how you try to figure out how to scale things. I spoke to a friend of mine literally half an hour ago before I hopped on to record this. And she and I were talking, of course, about flowers. And where she lives, she can't grow peonies. So if I make a recipe for you and say, here are the flowers that you should use, it's not going to matter for you, because if you can't grow that, it's not going to work. And that makes 0 sense to me. So you're not going to get a canned recipe from me. Good Lord, my cooking skills, I never follow a recipe anyway. I always add a little extra, or I know okay, I measure and it's about this much. I can make some wicked chili and I can cook a couple different things. But if you want me to follow a very specific recipe for something, that's a whole different topic. That's how I feel about flower recipes. I feel like people are led down this path of, wow, you need to grow this, this, and this, and it's going to be amazing. Okay, pause. What are you good at growing? What's realistic for your time and where you are in your business? And what is the market demand? So if you can grow something very well, but there's no demand for it, good God, don't grow it. But if you can grow something well and there's high demand for it, and you can figure out how to start growing it even better and get that to scale, that's more profitable than having 50 different varieties. Sit down, do the math, understand the counts. Because when you understand the counts, you can go back and you can then figure out, is mint profitable? Everybody would be like, oh yeah, we planted apple mint. It's drooping, it's not holding up well for us. So out of all the 5 varieties of mints that we have, yes, we have 5 varieties of mint. And no, I didn't fall down and hit my head. But apple mint grows the best and does the worst. So there have been multiple plants, perennials and annuals alike, that we have just completely removed out of the rotation. So, lots of mistakes that we have made, lots of misconceptions that I have learned over time have led us to developing these courses. This episode is not meant to be a giant long advertisement. This episode is truly meant for you to understand a little bit behind the scenes and for you to understand that if you're in this space, it's okay. It's okay to make those mistakes and learn and find your tribe. They don't all have to be flower farmers. Most of my tribe isn't, honestly. And that's okay, because there are people that I can ask questions about business or frustrations, or people who will just cheer me on regardless because they think everything I'm doing is wonderful. They're also the first people to be like, hold on, you need to think about this before you do this. So it literally has taken us 2 years to put this first course together. We have a couple little ones. We've done some soil things. We've done a planning guide. We have a cut flower one that is designed to have 3 different levels of grower to it. But this next course that we're launching, which is basically how to sell your flowers, is so near and dear to my heart because I wish someone had been there with me. I wish someone had helped me, and I wish someone had not laughed when I bought my tractor. So on that note, be sure to check them out. Be sure to get on the email list if you just want to hear little bits and pieces. We've got 2 different email lists. We've got the email list that is just general newsletter with lots of little garden tips and things like that, because that's really where people seem to enjoy them. And then we have another email list that is really designed for folks who are looking to have flowers become part of a business for them. So, as always, thank you. I am not going to throw up, but thank you. And I just put a poll out, actually, and I'm very curious to see the responses on this. I always feel like, hello, friends, or hi, folks, or what are you? What are you as my listeners? What do you want to be called? Because you're a part of my tribe. You are a part of why this works and how this whole crazy notion all came together, because you get that you don't have to buy a rose that's perfect from South America. You don't have to have a rose, a baby's breath, and a piece of a fern for it to be pretty. So who are you? So I would love a comment about that. Are you hi friends? Are you hello bean pods? Are you hi folks? Are you hello everybody? Like, what do you want to be called? So yeah, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you from here. And I want to take what's here and share it with all of you. So till next time. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Flower Files. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a moment to follow the podcast, leave us a review, and share this episode with a friend, a fellow gardener, a flower farmer, a florist, or just a flower lover. Your support helps us continue bringing more stories, more education, more inspiration to the flower community. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can hit that notification bell and never miss an episode. All of those things really do make a difference. You can find show notes, resources, and more flower-filled inspiration at Wildly Native Flower Farm. And be sure to connect with us on social media to continue the conversation. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep sharing the beauty that flowers bring to the world. This is the Flower Files, where we plant stories and grow conversations.